you liked that little intro there. Um, this is the Halloween special today. We are going to be painting Caravaggio's alleged self-portrait as the decapitated Goliath. So I thought anything Halloween-based, Caravaggio is probably a good example for what would be kind of spooky and scary, but not over the top, if you know what I mean. Hey, April, welcome, welcome. Okay, so let's go ahead and tone the canvas here, and feel free to ask any painting-related questions or ghost-related questions or anything Halloween you want to ask. And of course, what I'm gonna do is tone the canvas first. And I'm toning the center of the canvas a different color than what I'm going to tone the outside of the canvas. So I'm toning it kind of like a grayish color. And this is going to be where I'm going to paint the head. And this is going to settle in pretty fast, so I don't have to worry about painting wet into wet or anything like that. This will settle in pretty quickly. Remember, everyone, these live streams have been consistently at 6:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Mondays and Wednesdays. So I had some ideas about how this Halloween party would go, and then I decided to keep it a little bit more traditional, if you know what I mean. Hey, Mark. Alright, so now I'm gonna paint the background. Yeah, I'm specifically talking about our conversation in April. I wanted to wear a costume and do a painting that way, but I came home from my dog walking side job that I have on some days of the week, and I fell asleep. So yeah, I'm sorry about that. But we will be painting this Caravaggio. Hey, Jonas. Hey, Alan. Now I'm painting in the dark of the background, figuring out where his head's gonna go. So the story about this painting, it's one of Caravaggio's last paintings, and it's part of a painting. It's not the whole painting, of course. So anyone that doesn't know, hey Jonas, you painted Wednesday Addams as your Halloween painting. Awesome. Yeah, I did paint Wednesday Addams also yesterday. Was it yesterday? I think it was. Yeah, yesterday. For my in-laws. But I only got 2 hours to paint it. Yeah, I couldn't really show it. I saw it earlier today and I was like, yeah, probably not a good idea to show it. So I didn't show it. But that is you know what, Jonas, that is very difficult. Wednesday is very difficult to paint, mainly because she's like at that age where she's not like fully a grown up, but even though I think she's like in her 20s, but that age range is very difficult to paint. When you're not quite looking like you're over 30, but you don't look like a teenager anymore, it's a very difficult age to paint for sure. Just mixing up some dark brown for the background, thinning it out with water. Alan, you remember that Caravaggio? I don't know if I've done this one. I might have at some point. I don't know. But he is decapitated, but you can only see some little strands of blood on the bottom, and I'll paint those in. Now if I forget to paint them in, let me know. And then someone in the comments from years ago said, "Why don't you use a bigger brush to tone the background?" I don't know. I don't feel like it. But yeah, you use a bigger brush if you want. This is not a big canvas. It's 9 by 12 cotton canvas panel. Hey, Dr. Ahmed. Welcome, welcome. Just killing off the dark of the background. And this will be the most I'll thin out the paint. I won't thin it out very much after this. Just to get the paint to flow. Very Halloween-like. And of course I know that today's not Halloween, but I don't do live streams on YouTube on Tuesdays. You see, I'm trying to stay consistent. Consistency is key. So, what's everyone doing for Halloween? Hey, Dr. Ahmed, thanks for the comment about the challenging to mimic. Yeah, Caravaggio is always fun. Difficult but fun. All day today I've been saying that it was a monster mash. What is it called? Graveyard Smash. That's how I grew up. I grew up with that, and my mom playing the Michael Jackson Thriller. I'm not gonna try to sing Thriller for you because that would break the internet connection. Alright, now I've got the head somewhat blocked in. Facial hair, probably gonna fit around here. Shadow, maybe about there. Eye sockets, about there. These are just my initial guesstimations. So Alan not doing any parties. Well, this is I'm considering this a party. Because it had an intro. This video had an intro. Ready for this? This is what makes it a party. It has an intro. I learned how to do an intro. Yep, I learned how to do something. And to be honest, this is probably the only party I'm gonna attend for Halloween also. His mouth is open. So Jonas, you said you were spending time with your family for dinner. That's always nice. Spending time with the family. Eyes are gonna fit somewhere over there. It was a graveyard smash. Let's see, Mark, you said my work has been crazy and I haven't been able to make the Zoom sessions for a while. No worries, we'll be here. We'll be here when you're ready to come back. When you've got the time. I know. It's not always easy being a PhD professor. But I know you can handle it. I say this because I know Mark, of course, everyone. I know what he's talking about. Not being presumptuous or anything, I know what he's talking about. Filling in some of this dark. Caravaggio using Rembrandt lighting before Rembrandt's name was attributed to it. It was a monster mash. Alright, nose fits somewhere over here. Yeah, there we go. This painting is quite unique. Caravaggio painted himself as the villain, usually. And if you watch Simon Shaman, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but his take on Caravaggio, in the end he ends with this, and he says something to the extent that he was trying to repent for his crimes, and like when he killed that one guy and then was on the run for a while, and was sending this to the to the Pope for his pardon, and said something pretty neat to the extent of like we're all capable of being the David or the Goliath in our own stories, and we get to choose. Are we going to be the heroes or the villains of our own stories? That's Halloween for you. That gives you that Halloween. Ooh, Halloween. Yeah, I'm going to keep using that. But that's why I chose it, because blocking in the colors, like that's going to be pretty fun to make it look like that. And as always, I'm going to make his eyebrows too tall and things like that. So I'll go ahead and correct that as we get into color. His head, of course, is going to be a little bit lower. His mouth is going to stay there. His forehead, maybe about there. And I'll use the skin color to lower his head. And once I block in the skin color, then we'll add the specificity and then finish the painting. But essentially the painting is all already figured out at that stage. But like I always say, just think about it in terms of shapes. I don't care that it's an eye, that's a nose, the mouth, all that stuff. I don't care. I don't care if this is Caravaggio painting himself as Goliath or anything like that. Nope. Just shapes in the beginning. Tone that out. Kill off the white. Put in the dark for the background. There you go. Now we are going to go with a different brush. Hey Jonas, I'm glad you like the theme music. So from Dr. Ahmed. Let's see, may you give us advice please about the old master's painting technique and how we can avoid our painting color of being milky at the finish of the portraits. No worries. By milky, I guess you mean like overly, milk, the color of milk is kind of just pure white, with maybe like a hint of like orange. How to avoid that? I just added white and orange as I'm saying that. I'd say the best thing you can do is, in the beginning, lean towards the orangey yellows and gradually increase the colder colors. And I get criticized for that a lot, which I don't mind the criticism. Like when people are criticizing me, that means that they care, or not that they care, but it means that the opposite of that. It means that people are actually watching my videos again. So try to avoid colors that are like skin colors that are too gray for the beginning. For example, like maybe this right here. This might end up being too gray. And then it's going to be hard to add colors on top of that, potentially. So what I would do, and what you see a lot of painters do these days, is just punch up the orange a little bit. And if you have burnt sienna naturally leans itself to a skin color, as opposed to what I'm doing, which is using the primaries. So I use the primaries and I add, I premix. I premix my brown, my green, and my orange using the primaries. So that's my advice for you there. Also, another thing, Ahmed, I will say, and this pertains to all of classical painting in general, and not just by the sense of like making something look highly sophisticated or anything, but when you're trying to paint something to look realistic or to represent nature, don't think too much about the color. Think more about the value. A wise person once said, and I don't think this is attributed to any one person, but people always say that value does all the work and color gets all the whatchamacallit? I forgot how it goes. Somebody tell me how the quote goes. I don't remember. Value does all the work and color gets all the credit. That's what it is. Color gets all the credit. Value does all the work. Let's see from Jonas. Did the old masters like today paint high contrast portraits, or was it more a modern thing? Back then it was a modern thing. The chiaroscuro, the contrast, this dramatic contrast between light and dark. Back in Caravaggio's day, he was a pioneer in chiaroscuro. He basically took it, he didn't invent it, it was already done before him, but he took it and he added more realism than was traditionally used. And it's not to say that I'm a like like an art historian or anything like that. I just know specific things about art history that pertain to techniques. Um, so Caravaggio was really one of the biggest uh, in the past, like biggest superstars that employed this, as you say, high contrast technique, which is formally referred to as chiaroscuro, contrast between light and dark. It was a monster mash. All right. And it's been used ever since. I mean, Sargent, Rembrandt, Bouguereau, Nelson Shanks, pretty much everybody, except for the Impressionists. And even the Impressionists do employ chiaroscuro to the extent where they use a reverse chiaroscuro. Maybe the background is light and the foreground is dark, but it's still chiaroscuro. Hello there. I'm glad you like the explanation. It was a monster mash. Now I'm gonna get that song stuck in your head. Does anyone remember? What are your earliest memories dressing up for Halloween? I think I dressed up as Luke Skywalker. Was it Luke Skywalker? The one with the ponytail? I even tried to grow out a ponytail when I was a kid. I think that's like Star Wars Episode 1 or something. Anyone remember what they dressed up as? Just add a little bit of pink so we can add some color to the lip. Obviously not that much color, but whatever. We're gonna start with it. It was a monster mash. Graveyard Smash. So Caravaggio paints himself as the villain. He is a villain. By all accounts, Caravaggio was the stuff of nightmares. I mean, yeah, excellent painter, but I wouldn't want to run into him in the middle of the night. No, I wouldn't. So Jonas, you say dressed up as Jason with the white mask. Yeah, there's a lot of funny Jason ones these days. That's a good one. I don't think I ever did that. The Jason. You know, I think that movie actually kind of scared me a little bit. I wasn't very. I do like paranormal, like scary movies, but it's gore that gets me. I think, if I'm to be honest, it's a gore. Like I won't like watch Saw, and that'll be the next thing we can talk about. What are your favorite like horror movies or scary movies? I remember watching Candyman, like the old Candyman, with my dad a while ago, like probably like 30 years ago. No, I'm just kidding. Probably like maybe 20 something years ago. Ooh, where does that pink come from? Foreheads are usually kind of yellowish in in antiquity. I mean, classically, this is the yellow strand. Um, this is the pink. This is the green. Of course, Caravaggio didn't employ that much color though. Color in portraiture was already kind of a thing, but it didn't really become big until I'd say potentially recent times. Henry Henry taught Nelson Shanks, and the rest is history. Now we're adding in some side planes, and the tone underneath has already started to settle in, so I can paint it comfortably as if I'm painting on a dry surface, but I can still shovel it off if I want to. I just don't want to. Hey Stephanie Thompson, how have you been? I hope you're having a good almost Halloween. I know that not everyone celebrates Halloween. It's just I like some holiday stuff. And I mean, this is definitely like an apparition of some sort. I'm kind of purposefully making it look a little scary, a little frightening. For example, you know how I always talk about the awkward stage and how it's a kind of a thing with portraiture? Well, sometimes the awkward stage is, the scary stuff is actually a good thing if you're trying to make a scary looking painting. And I knew as soon as I add the sclera, that's gonna look spooky. And Stephanie doing homework. That sounds like fun. Well, I imagine you're a very hard worker, so I know that you do appreciate the intellectual pursuits. Yep, just a series of scary, spooky looking monster mash shapes. Eyelid has some light. Like I said, I could bring the value or the shape, whatever. I can bring the shape up just using the light of the skin color. Spooky. Spooky looking lower eyelid. Spooky little side plane of the eye socket. Yep. Yep. Spooky side plane of the eye socket. It's a scary looking guy. So Stephanie, am I doing a take on Caravaggio? Yeah. This is about what, I don't know, 20 minutes in, 25 minutes in, the little Caravaggio head, and we'll return to that palette knife painting, of course, everyone. I'm not running away from it. I just thought that we would do something like a Halloween fun. But yeah, this is a Caravaggio head study for sure. Even though I'm having a lot of fun with it, it's I'm treating it like a Caravaggio head steady. Push the red a little bit further than it is, and then we'll have some room to add color to it. It was a graveyard smash. So why am I pushing that Super Mario looking Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer red on the nose? Because it gives me something to work with. I can do things like that. I can build onto that. It's easier to add cooler colors while the painting is wet. It's easier to add cooler colors onto warmer colors. It just is. Now I can build up the bulb of his nose. Yep, the Monster Mash. Too bad I can't put that music on, because somebody will say demonetized. Thou shalt not eat. So, nah, I can't. Alright, so let's add the side plane, little side plane for the side of his face. Shape for the outside of the nostril. While we're at it, charge up this dark, hint of red. Throw in the shadow for the side of his tormented tear bag. He's been crying a lot. He's kind of upset for what he did. And he wants to be forgiven. Look at me, I have done great wrong, but I repent for it, is what he's saying. That's my take on Caravaggio. But I mean, it's like Simon Schaumann's and like everyone's take. Oh yeah, of course, Alan. Thanks for catching that. Yeah, I'm imitating Hugo. Only a true Hugo the Shiba Inu follower would have caught that. So awesome that you caught that, Alan. Anyone that's wondering what we're talking about, my puppy Hugo the Shiba Inu trick dog, he has his own YouTube videos. He's got 2 of them, and he's got an Instagram and all that stuff. But of course, his channel is dedicated to painting, so I'll bring him in once in a while. But he has his own channel for all that stuff. And I'm just going all around the painting, not really worried about the awkward stage, because there is no awkward stage. It has to look awkward, that's the point, and it's got to be scary. Monster Mash, scary. This is how chill I am. I can add his teeth with the back end of the brush. Jagged teeth. Didn't see a dentist. He's been on the run, 17th century. I don't think there was much for dental work back then. Jeez, they didn't even have pain meds, I don't think. Okie dokie. It's gonna be a light under his lower eyelid. Some little side planes. Warm, kind of greenish to start with. Isn't it a lot faster with a paintbrush, everyone? But yes, I will return to that one palette knife painting for sure. Palette knife really taught me another level in mixing that I wasn't aware of, even after all these years. Alright, side plane. Push it a little bit further than we think. Now let's go and add these planes here and push them further. Don't be shy. Really put in that plane, then slice into it, and then bring it back to reality. But first you have to push it a little bit. See what I mean by pushing it? Push the form, push the contrast. It's actually what we spoke about a lot today in still life class. We're working on the fundamentals, the pure fundamentals of painting. Can you paint things from your imagination and make them look realistic? Pushing how much you know, and then you will automatically implement it into your painting. And you will see things like proportion and all that stuff. Instead of measuring the thing, you can see, oh, some of his forehead comes up that way. Since you know how to work with color, boom, doesn't matter how you do it. Boom, that doesn't matter. And you know that you can cut into it with your dark paint. So you're not that worried about it anymore. This is maybe 1 inch to the left, 1 inch to the right. Move it a tad bit to the left. Take the natural logarithm of e to the x and all those measurements. You don't need it. See it, visualize it, paint it, chop into it, and that's it. Now, of course, I always say that it's easier to learn with the classical approach, and that's the way that I emphasize in the beginning for students. And then of course I take students beyond the classical approach and into more kind of like painting wets into wets and getting comfortable with working with shapes rather than lines. But yeah, it's easier to push shapes into shapes, work with the general feeling of the proportion rather than dealing with a grid or something like that. And with color also, it should be as free-flowing and natural as it can be. Avoid things like a color match or something, like matching perfectly with the photograph. It's kind of interesting. I think I might make a short video based on an email that someone sent me. But typically, if I don't recognize the person that sent me an email right away, I don't usually respond. But that's what these videos are for. If you have questions, definitely just feel free to ask me. I feel safer responding that way because you know how the cyber world is these days. But an interesting question, a comment that somebody wrote to my email. They're basically saying, to summarize, I'm just going to summarize it. They're saying that they're lacking motivation because all the paintings in the museums are dark and gloomy. And yes, this is dark and you can call it gloomy if you want to. But then they went into saying that everybody is talking about, and I guess he or she was referring to us, like YouTube painters, always paint from life, always paint from life, life this, life that, paint from live models. And this person made a valid point, like, well, I'm not rich. I can't afford to paint from live models all the time. And I'm assuming if you're listening to this and you wrote that message to me, I'm assuming that you're living in a place like I am currently that doesn't have any painting sessions, open painting sessions that have long poses for you to be able to paint from a live model, other than like paying hundreds of dollars for an art class. Um, so I get it, and my response to something like that would be, well, when did I say paint from life, paint from life in the past couple weeks? I probably said it a couple times, but not as much as I used to, because what I'm showing you right now is a way to improve your painting without having to go to a museum and be, I don't know, like hassled by all the people in the museum about not getting paint on the floor or things like that, and then people stopping by and asking you like, "Oh, how long have you been painting all that stuff?" If you know what I mean, like if you've ever painted in a museum, which I haven't, but I have painted in public settings before, doing landscapes and stuff, and people do approach you a lot, and it's not always a bad thing, but it does take away your time and your focus. But use the internet, find your favorite old master paintings, or just paintings that you enjoy something out of them, something you enjoy from the painting, something that you want to learn, you want to emulate, not necessarily copy, but emulate. And that will up your skill level like dramatically. Your skill level, and I've seen it. I mean, I'm not just telling you this, I've seen it with my own students. Ellen has improved dramatically, Mark has improved dramatically, April has improved dramatically, Kathy has improved dramatically. She had, like I said, she has her own following. She's gonna have her own like website and things like that. So it works, and it's a way to not spend thousands of dollars going to an art school if you can't afford it, which most of us can't. I was lucky I had mentors when I was young. I had people that brought me in and didn't charge me the thousands of dollars to attend their classes. They were like, "Hey, this kid really wants to learn. This kid really doesn't have that much money, so let me bring him into these classes." And I was fortunate. That's my teacher Paulin that did that for me. And then, of course, I got help when I went to Philly, and all that stuff. But this is not about me. This is about you. And that comment in particular, find your favorite paintings on the internet. Try to find the best reproduction of them as you can, and just paint them, emulate them, and you will learn dramatically. It was the Monster Mash, just like the Monster Mash. You will learn dramatically. Stop looking at photo references or photographs that you did not take, or someone with the intentions of painting did not take. Avoid that stuff. Avoid it like the plague if you can. We are fortunate. We, in these times, I mean, these times are pretty crappy, and when it comes to like world events and stuff, I'm not gonna lie to you there. But we're fortunate as artists that we have something like Google Arts and Culture, which is like Google Maps of paintings. You are very fortunate. You can use that, and of course use people like me. I have taken photo references specifically for painting, and I've done projects that guide students through that, and it's not going to cost you thousands of dollars like it did in the old days. Let's see, Mark, you wrote, he is right. It's so helpful to see how the master paintings break down values and planes of the head. It's harder to see that from photos or even a real life model. Yeah, definitely. It's hard to see in a real life model because it's not there. It's all stuff that we have to conceptualize. It's all stuff that we have to conceptualize, like the monster mash. Things that we have to conceptualize are things that don't exist in nature. We make them up. It's like math. Math doesn't exist in nature, or maybe it does. I don't know. I'm not a philosopher. The universe can be described using equations and functions and all kinds of advanced logical systems, but it is only explained through those systems. That engineering is a language of math is a language of engineering, of course, and without the math, the physics wouldn't work. Without the physics, bridges would collapse more frequently, and things like that. And it's the same in painting, and all that stuff, all that math, all that knowledge. It doesn't take equations. You don't have to do integrals and derivatives and Laplace transforms and things like that. You don't need that. You don't need matrices, linear algebra, the eigenvalue of something. You don't need that in painting. You just need to spend time looking at the old masters, and you will learn. I've seen it happen. I was there. Just like the monster mash. Somebody has to count how many times in this video I'm going to say monster mash. Many times. Side plane for the eyelid. And by getting to replicate from a reference, and my advice to you is to get a tablet. Use the tablet for your reference. So my tablet's just off to the side, or use a TV. But don't, if you can avoid it, try to avoid having the reference right next to your painting, because you want to emulate what it's like to paint from real life. And when you're painting from real life, you're usually painting with a group, and you can't, unless you can hire your own model, but you usually can't have the model's head right next to your canvas. Oh yeah, question for everyone. Halloween themed question. What was your favorite scary movie growing up? And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a horror movie. But what was your favorite like Halloween time movie? Or currently, what's your favorite I mean, there's Hubie Dubois. Like that one is a big one today. In general, I guess the question, to make it simpler, what was your favorite Halloween movie? I think I'd have to think about my answer to that question, because I'm not a big time like movie person, but I'd say I really like funny Halloween stuff. I like funny, scary stuff. I have a dark sense of humor. Um, so probably I'd say my favorite kind of like scary movie-ish would probably be Scary Movie 3. I think that's my favorite of them, with when the UFO lands and all that stuff, and the actor is kind of pretending to be like Eminem from 8 Mile. That that's one of my favorite movies. And it happens to be somewhat of a scary movie. Not really scary though. Monster Mash. Any Edward Scissorhands fans or something here? Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Oh, cool. Sounds familiar. I don't know if I've seen that. Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I called it. I did say I wasn't like a big time movie person. Let's see. April, you said, I've always loved the Disney Sleepy Hollow. Oh, cool. Yeah, no, I gotta. It sounds familiar. I'm sure I've seen it. Ellen, you saw 8 Mile. Yeah, I watched that yesterday. As you say, everybody in the 313. A cartoon. Oh, maybe we're not talking about the same movie. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a big time movie person. Putting the you wrote Beetlejuice was great and awesome. I think I painted. Did I paint Beetlejuice once? I think I did on a pumpkin. I've done so many of those pumpkin paintings. It might have been. Was it Beetlejuice? I might be mistaking it for the mask. I don't remember. Any Freddy Krueger fans here? I think Freddy Krueger was my mom's favorite. My mom loved scary movies. So I grew up with scary movies. I wasn't really like shy from them. Freddy Krueger, I think Chucky. We watched Chucky. Mind you, this was the 90s. I was a kid. Kind of different than nowadays. No horror movies for you? Well, that's all good. It's okay. You know, the only thing that really gets me through horror movies is thinking about how the actors and the production set everything up, or like thinking about how production set it up. That's one of my favorite things about that's what makes me less afraid of it. That I'm more like, huh, how did they get that effect? Like, what camera angle did they use for that? Like, how did they get that transition? Or just humor. I mean, I have a dark sense of humor. monster mash. Someone's gotta count it. So Dr. Med said, may you please give us advice on how to avoid overdoing the details in a portrait painting, since I sometimes ruin my painting by obsession with details. There is no such thing as over painting. I will say to maybe my detriment, but the idea of over painting is it was constructed by instructors, people that want their students to avoid minutia or putting in the eyelid before putting in the eye socket or things like that. But what I'll say is one of the best pieces of advice I can give for you, Dr. Ahmed, about how to avoid putting in too many details is stay further back from your painting than you currently are. Stay further away. If you stay further away, you'll naturally avoid putting in too many details too soon. But also know that overpainting is a myth. You cannot overpaint anything. What it is frustration. That's all. And yes, a painting, it goes back and forth. Like a painting is not like many things. It's not like a straightforward, step by step. It's not a linear progression or exponential. Hey Simon, Sammy, hello. It isn't a linear progression. There are going to be steps backwards. Like take I don't know, like 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, something like that. That song, you don't get very far like that. Well, that's just how it is. That's life. I mean, we move forward and then we move back, and it happens. It's a thing that happens. We spend a lot of time working on a particular pool shot, and we do it 30 times in a row, and then we miss it in competition and lose however much money was in the tournament. It happens. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means it happens. It's a natural part of the learning process. It's not the most fun thing, but it happens. But yeah, stay further back from where you are. As much as you can, you have to stay further back. And for example, I can't get that close to this painting. If I do, my head is going to be in the way. Because I have the camera pretty close to frontal. It's probably like maybe 10 degrees from frontal, but pretty close to frontal. Another piece of advice I can give everyone, and it's a piece of advice that I give my students too, and I think I keep mentioning her name, but I think Kathy is actually going to do it, is to record yourself painting and watch how you develop your own paintings. And to me, over the years, over however many years I've been doing videos, it has helped me because I understand where I'm taking too long. Most of the time I need to get somewhere faster and I need to figure out what it is. And that's why in the beginning you saw me just throw down shapes and not really give a care about where the shapes went, because I knew, looking at my videos, looking at how I develop things, how things are developed in general, like, oh, wait a minute, it's not easy. It's easy to put a brush stroke in and move an eye. Like it'll help you. Like the monster mash. Well, now my next question for everyone is going to be, what is your favorite Halloween type song? Obviously, I'm singing the Monster Mash, so right now the Monster Mash is my favorite. Graveyard Smash. It was the Monster Mash. See how it started out pink and now it's getting kind of progressively cooler and cooler? And I believe since he decapitated himself in the self-portrait, remember he painted himself as Goliath. This is supposed to be Goliath. So the skin color should look slightly dead-ish. And maybe a little bit sweaty, like kind of like he's like been under turmoil. So I will push the highlights in order to get that kind of effect. Wow, I can't believe it's already been almost an hour now. Crazy. Now we're pushing that highlight a little bit. Yeah, so sitting back, standing back, being as far back as possible helps you see things. Like for me, I see that this has to get further down. Has to go further down. This has to go up. Being as far back as you can gives you perspective, and perspective is what you need to be able to make the right adjustments to your painting rather than the measuring thing, which does help, and I do teach that. Don't get me wrong. It just you'll want to outgrow that at some point, or not. I mean, whatever is most convenient for you, whatever works for you, is what works for you. Next question for everyone. How many of you have cats? 'Cause for me, cats have always been like kind of a thing that makes me think of Halloween a little bit. That's because cats are so majestic, but at the same time, always kind of represented in Halloween folklore. How many of you have a cat? And if you're watching this after it was streamed, you can feel free to comment. Do you have a cat? What's your cat's name? What's your cat's personality like? Well, we used to have a cat. Unfortunately, she passed away kind of around this time, a couple of years ago. She was a stray that we took in, but I think she had some kind of underlying illnesses that the vet probably wasn't able to see. But anyway, a very fitting Halloween question. How many of you have cats? Alan has 3 cats. I think my mom has five cats. 3 of which are strays that she's just kind of fostering in a way. 2 of them are strays that she took in, and one of them was actually could fit in the palm of your hand as a kitten. Was sitting right behind my mom's tire, and she luckily saw the cat. His name is Confucius. Monster Mash. Contrast is key to making his face look a little bit oily, a little bit unkept. Now we're pushing contrast. AK, yes, this is oil paint. Yep, this is oil paint. This is Cobra Talons, water cleanable. Trust me, at this point it's the same as traditional oil paint in the sense that I'm not thinning anything out. I'm using the paint the way it is. For these darks, I thinned it out with water. But you could do that with Gamsol, with any kind of odorless mineral spirits, with traditional paint, same thing. I'll push that light a little bit. So Ellen, you wrote all our strays. Shadow is the only black cat we have. Oh cool, you have a cat named Shadow. Now you need a cat named Light, so you can have the complete light and shadow chiaroscuro effect with your cats. So from Keith, you're I can only paint in a small room and I'm looking for methods for that. Well, you've landed on the perfect demonstration for that. I am in a small room and I don't have a sink dedicated specifically for art. So I can't use mineral spirits. I can't use any flammable rags or flammable materials or anything like that. And I don't have much ventilation, though I do have windows. I just don't feel like opening them. So Cobra Talons, and I've got links in the description box of the video if you want to buy some of them from Amazon. It will help me out a little bit if you use the links, but you don't have to. I mean, you can go to Jerry's Artorama and you can find them there. But they are very, very affordable, and they are oil paints, so you don't have to worry about acrylics, because acrylics are incredibly difficult to use. Oil paint is more friendly because it doesn't dry right away, but it does dry at a reasonable rate. I'm glad you like Caravaggio. And I am using just 3 colors and white. So this is Pyrrole Red, Permanent Yellow Deep, Ultramarine Blue. These colors are very affordable. There are no cadmiums, nothing flammable, nothing overly hazardous. If you accidentally get paint on your hands, again, I just use, this is just water, so if I accidentally get paint on my hands, water will clean it off pretty quickly with a rag. I'll show you how easily these paints clean. And there it is. It's almost like nothing happened. Unlike cadmium, you ever get cadmium right on your hands? It is very difficult to get off. But yeah, like almost like nothing happened. So they're very easy to use. And the trick really is just use the water to thin out the paint in the beginning, and then it will settle. Like this is, as you see, I can run my finger across it and it's not coming off that easily. It will settle. But it allows you to paint without having to worry about, number one, costs. It's expensive. Traditional is more expensive. Hazardous materials, like I wouldn't want to get cadmium right on my finger. Easy to clean. These are super easy to clean. Just water and soap will clean your brushes perfectly. Ventilation is another one. And it dries at a really reasonable rate. Like the palette knife painting from, what was that, Wednesday? So 5 days ago. Pure palette knife. Very thick. It is dry. So a lot of benefits. More benefits than there are cons to it. And it is oil paint. This is oil paint. Just because it thins out with water doesn't mean that it's a different medium. It is oil paint. It's not water based. This is not based on water. All it is just a modified linseed oil. But it is linseed oil. Therefore, in conclusion, it is oil paint. So from Dr. Ahmed, did you always paint without pre-prepared sketches, sketching the faces of the features of the face, and do you advise beginners to use this technique? Great question, Dr. Ahmed. And I don't suggest that my beginning students start that way, because it adds another element into the process, which is paint handling. Paint handling is not intuitive for most of us. It certainly wasn't for me. So for example, like what I said about putting in all the shapes, thinning it out, and adding in all the color, that knowledge rests upon a linear aspect in my mind, because the linear aspect is always going to be easier to see first. So I have templates that I create for my students. Mark is currently working on one of the templates. One of the project 2 has many different references and templates for the lines, and it's really useful to help you to see accuracies. Like for example, what I just did there, I'm comparing the linear aspect of that shape using the paint to make that correction. So to answer your question, I would say that starting out with outlines is a better way for beginners to start out with. However, I will also say this. For absolute beginners, it depends on what you like, but I like to challenge myself. I am a beginner pool player. That's what I do aside from painting. I really like challenging myself. I'll play games against people that are 10, like 10 out of, like 10 times out of 2, or like 2 times out of 10 will be my probability of beating them, but I'll still play games against them and I'll still give it my all, because I like challenge. So even as a beginner, you could still use these methods if it looks fun to you, like a fun challenge. Go for it. All I'm saying is that it is easier to learn using the classical approach, where you have outlines and a monochrome um, underpainting, and then you add layers of color over it. That's easier to do. And a lot of experienced painters still do that, because it gives them a process that they can rely on, and that's fun for them, and it works for them. It pays their bills, so that's what they do. But for me, this is what pays my bills. Basically, I enjoy the art of painting in its most pure form. I'm not giving you a gimmick. I'm not giving you like here's the 5 easy steps to do this and that. No, I'm just painting and I'm talking to you and showing you how I like to construct things. But yeah, that's easier to start with lines. It was the monster mash. Oh, no problem, KS. I'm glad you liked the info. Yeah, no worries. The stream's gonna end pretty soon anyway. Um, so this was just a one-off painting demo. We will return to that palette knife painting on Wednesday. So if you can join Kias, we will be back on Wednesday. Uh, Same time, 6:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. You are more than welcome to join. Hey, Kiev, yeah, this stream will be available for you to watch as many times as you'd like. It's going to be uploaded onto my YouTube channel right after the stream ends, or maybe a couple minutes after. Depending on internet speeds and stuff, it will be available for you to watch. Hi, Dr. Ahmed. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you liked the painting session. It was lots of fun, everyone, with the Monster Mash. It was a graveyard smash. Basically, this guy, Caravaggio. Who else, really, would I pick for the Monster Mash? And I don't even care to like delineate his teeth or anything like that. That's not what Caravaggio is about. Caravaggio is about chiaroscuro, light and shadow, structure, depth, meaning, uh, dark, darkness, the darkness. That's what he's about, darkness. But it's always light that overcomes shadow, or shadow overcomes light. It's always a nice dramatic kind of theatrical thing. Yeah, I think that should be good. Good for Caravaggio and the Monster Mash. Remember one more thing. I always do that. One more thing. Uh, 18 times. You counted? Oh my goodness. Awesome. I'm glad that you counted it. I thought I said it more than 18, but I guess now it's about to be 19. It was the monster mash. Adding to your counter. Thanks, Ellen. Yep, I think that will be good for today. I think Hugo's asleep, so we'll let Hugo stay asleep. Wednesday we'll bring him back so he can say hello. But this will be the point where I'll ask if there are any last minute questions. And yes, I do type really slow. It's only one time now. And thanks for all the likes, everyone. We've got about 23 likes. Thanks, April. I'm glad you stayed for the monster mash. And remember, everyone, we will return on Wednesday, 6:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, to return to this very difficult palette knife painting. Now, this is 2 sessions, 1 session. You see how much faster brush is than palette knife? But yeah, we're going to get into all that stuff, all that subtlety with the palette knife. Wednesday, 6:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And yes, these videos will be available for you to watch on YouTube after the stream ends. Okay, so it looks like there are no last minute questions. Of course, I want to play my intro one more time as my outro. And there you have it. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. As always, if you're interested in taking your online art education with me further, please check out my online classes. Links are in the description box of this video. I wish you the very best in all of your artwork, and I'll see you on the next time. It was the Monster Mash.